Hello, my name is Rich Howard, owner of Architectural Builder Supply, and this video is to bring you a closer look at a very particular variant of a Yale 7110 series exit device. We have a 7110F by AU691F by B by 36 by 8 by left-hand reverse by 1109 by 630. Okay, so we've got this exit device here, and we're going to dissect all of the individual parts that go into making up what that part number is actually all about. And there are several links down below this video that will allow us to do that, in fact. And let's start with simply going over the product catalog. There are links down below this video. The product catalog, the installation instructions, the trim reversing instructions, and the electrified trim instructions. So let's start with a review of the product catalog. Okay, and that link is going to allow us an overview. The 7000 series is the grade 1, top of the line, flagship sort of exit device from Yale. It will, of course, be available in rim variants, surface vertical rod, concealed vertical rod variants, those typical sorts of culprits of how that material is arranged in both the standard bolt and the square bolt type of option. As we get into the first pages, basically, of the product catalog, the introduction tells us it's marketing language that's there, talking about the durability and the expansiveness of the different applications that it can be installed on, how it is modern and aesthetically pleasing, etc. That page talks about the different finishes that it's available in. Suffice it to say, all of the common architectural finishes can be accommodated, including a 693 finish, which is black painted. I'm sure that is a powder coat paint that's on there. Black is the very common and popular finish that we see these days. There are lots of features that can be done on the 7000 series. A square bolt sort of option is available in comparison to the traditional Pullman latch. The square bolt is a revolutionary security and safety exit device from Yale and presents an improved physical barrier over standard rim latch bolts, and available in their wide or narrow style. The square bolt exit device locks into place and stays there, and can't be lloyding, tampering with the latch bolt is not really permissible with that at all. The electrified options on this are several, and many of which this device has a couple of things that we're going to talk about, part of the part number. Latch pullback, electric dogging, mortise device trim control, touch bar monitor or signaling, outside trim monitor or signaling, latch bolt position monitor or signaling, delayed egress, electric trim control, and exit alarm. So lots of ways to be able to have this device fully communicate in an electrified environment, transferring information to those that need to know the condition of the unit. It's available as a windstorm device as well. Carries a 5-year limited warranty. Trim carries a 1-year warranty. Available with a micro shield, which is a coating that can be done to help retard the growth of bacteria on the surface of the hardware. Lumilight is a photoluminescence technology to provide visibility of exit devices in low light or no light or smoky conditions. That's the key there. Lumilight absorbs ambient lighting, which is then emitted when the light source is diminished or eliminated. That's interesting material. UL 10C rated for fire rated openings up to 4 foot by 10 foot for single or pairs of doors. Okay, so it would be an 8.0, 10.0 for a pair. Freewheeling lever trim on their exit device. All Yale exit trims, except mortise trim, feature the unique freewheeling lever mechanism, which is similar to the 5400 series. It is basically a clutch mechanism whereby the trim will rotate in a locked condition, and the purpose of that is to greatly improving its vandal resistance. The temptation of someone to try to hop up and stand on top of a rigid lever is significantly reduced when that lever just simply rotates without retracting the latch. Moving through the catalog, we'll see a column of the different functions that are available on the different exit devices that can be reviewed. Then we get to the area where you can, a page that you can see on the page 6 of that catalog that will show you applications of what device to use given the particular circumstance. We are dealing with a surface vertical rod in this application, which is the 7110. We are specifically dealing with a fire-rated variant of it, which will be inherently a different device. It will certainly remove the dogging capability from it. And then we get to the product page for the 7110F. It is a surface vertical rod exit device to be used on wide style or flush doors up to 8 foot for fire, up to 10 foot for panic, where 2-point latching is desired. So this fire-rated door cannot exceed 8 foot tall, the one that we're working on here, because you have fire devices and panic devices, and they are different devices. You have to be sure that you're ordering a fire device for fire-rated doors. Designed for wide style and flush doors. They are handed. They need to be ordered as handed devices. Bottom deadbolt for secure latching is a feature, and fully adjustable roller strike is available, is standard for the unit as well. Can be used on pairs of doors, double egress. You can actually use it on single doors as well, where you want 2 points of latching. That might be typical. That might be something that you might be interested in. Then they get into the specifications that this device can work on 2 foot doors. Then doors, it can be ordered for a 2 foot door, which is a -24. We're dealing with a -36 in our part number. I'm looking for my part number. Yeah, we've got 36 in our part number. So that will be compatible with doors from 30 to 36 inch in length. 48 is going to take, a -48 will give you a device compatible from over 36 up to 48 inch in size. The key is that the activating area be not less than 50% of the door width. And staying within that range when you order the device will, of course, permit you to be compliant with that requirement. Door thickness, 1 3/4. They can help with thicknesses of up to 4.5 inch. Specify the thickness when ordering. That generally carries an additional cost, naturally. Minimum style width is 4.5 inch. That means that the clear dimension of the room onto which you have to place the head case of the exit device must be at least 4.5 inch. Or you're simply not going to get everything fit onto the door based on the back set that you're installing it at. It has a 3 1/4 inch projection when it is fully in its natural state, 2 3/4 when it's dogged, or when it's obviously fully activated. The latch bolt, top 3 1/4 inch throw Pullman type latch with automatic dead latching. The bottom is a 5/8 throw dead bolt, held retracted during door swing. Vertical rods are 1/2 inch tubular, brass, bronze, or stainless. We are dealing with a 630 device, so it'll be tubular, meaning not in terms of the shape that it's a tube, but tubular in the sense that it's hollow. There will be hollow stainless tubes that are 1/2 inch diameter. It talks about the top 791 roller type with a 790 bottom flush mounted strike, and there are optional strikes available that are further on down in the catalog. Machine screws or wood door fasteners are standard. Sex nuts and bolts are supplied as standard for fire-rated devices. Series of trims are available, which we'll talk about. Hex key dogging on panic is available, not on fire devices. Cylinder dogging is available as well. Then we scroll into and start looking at the different trims that we can do. Our device here is an AU, so we're dealing with an Augusta trim. That is probably the most common Yale lever that we're going to see. A bunch of their decorative levers are there as well, which they call reflections. It's very refreshing to see availability of lots of different beautiful levers that are relatively recent. With the advent of ADA in the very early 1990s, there were really only 3 levers available, and luckily over the last few years that's really broadened out to give us lots of choices. As we continue to scroll through, we find the trims that are available on our exit device possibilities. We're dealing with a 691. That's a very particular variant because it features the ability to electrically unlock the trim, and we will get into the 691 into this catalog. As I scroll through, there's more trim that is available here. They get into the electrified options available on these devices. We're dealing with a B device. We have a B in our part number. That means touch bar monitor, but you can do an alarm, A for alarm, B for touch bar monitor, D for delayed egress, G for electric dogging. So you can dog a fire-rated exit device. It has to be electric dogging that's connected to a fire panel. That's how that would be compliant. Security package, DPS. I am not sure what that is. That is very likely a confluence of different monitoring switches. Latch bolt monitoring, push pad monitoring, trim monitoring is probably what it is. You know, if you have a touch bar monitor on your device, and I put a crowbar in the edge of the door and frame and pry the door and frame open and get it open, you don't know that I've entered because I've not hit the touch bar at all. If you have strike monitoring, that might help you in that case. I would imagine that security package will help really know when someone's hitting that door. Trim monitor switch, electric latch retraction, O for trim monitor switch, P for electric latch retraction, S for latch bolt monitor position, S safe for fail safe operation for Mortis devices, or secure for fail secure operation for Mortis devices, a 690F for fail safe electrified trim, and then we have a 691F for fail secure electrified trim. So far our device is a 7110F surface vertical rod fire rated. It's a 36 with a B option, which is a touch bar monitor, with an AU691F, an Augusta fail secure electrified exterior trim. And we're getting to the end of the part number for sure. Just to go through the rest of the part number, we have an 8 because we're dealing with an 8-foot tall door. And then we have a 630 along with our handing. These are handed, as we said. This device, this job has both left and right hand reverse on it. As we continue to scroll through the catalog, we'll see the electro links mentioned there. Electro links is a standardized method of connectors that are used to make simple the connecting of devices together, whether it be cables or hinges or lock sets or exit devices or other things that require power. Plug and play connectors is really what they are. Further trims are discussed, further options are discussed. Specifically, the 691F is a fail secure trim, and we're going to show that trim right now. Okay. So this is a 691F. This is going to have a solenoid back here that when that solenoid is engaged, it's going to, we're dealing with a 691F, so that's fail secure, so it's always locked. Okay, so what we have here is we have a fail secure trim. We've got the ability to electrically control it with this large apparatus up here, this solenoid. When I rotate the trim, when it's in its standard connected position, okay, this is what's going to pull the latch bolts back. As I rotate the trim, it's not moving. When this solenoid fires, it's going to draw this chassis up, and believe it or not, just that movement is what's going to allow that to move. All that's really happening here is this chassis is moving up. It's pulling it up, and it's what it's doing is it's pulling the tailpiece out of its housing so that it engages. That's all it's doing. That's what's going to make it work. That's what's going to give you the ability to retract upon rotation of the lever. Okay. Now this is a fail secure, and that means specifically that we're dealing with the lever is locked when the power is off. Okay? You can take that lever and rotate it. It's not going to retract the latches. Power on allows activation for entry. We just demonstrated that. Inside device is always active for egress. Mechanical key override. You will have a key. You do have a key option in here because actually I didn't tell you the entire part number. I forgot the 1109. The 1109 is a reference to the rim cylinder, so you'll always be able to get in mechanically should there be a hardware failure. This 1109 is going to have a 6-pin para keyway. Para stands for paracentric or paracentric, or E1R it's known. This keyway is a standalone type keyway, meaning it's not part of a multiplex system. That's a different video altogether. But 1109 means cylinder. Mechanical override, and that is the 691. Now you can have a 690, which is a fail-safe, meaning that upon loss of power, you're always able to get in, or to retract the latch bolts. Typical application for both might be something like, I have an airport terminal and I need to know who's coming and going. Okay, this device is going to a military base out in the middle of the Pacific Ocean. So they think of it as an airport terminal. You need to know who's entering off the jetway, et cetera, who's going out to it, of course. Fail secure is power is off normally. Everything's locked on the outside. The inside you can always get out. On the inside you've got that touch bar monitor. That will report back. We'll talk about that. The other option is fail safe. So a fail secure, that door should normally be locked. All times, locked on the outside. No one's coming in. Unless you have credentials or a key. So that would make sense to temporarily energize that system, and then when the power falls off, it's locked again. That makes sense, absolutely. There could be instances where you want doors always locked, and then upon loss of power, they would be unlocked. And a perfect example of that would be a stair tower. Buildings over 3 foot tall are actually considered high-rise buildings. So if you've got a 10-story off or a 12-story office building, you've got 4 floors of the architectural firm, 4 floors of the law firm, 4 floors of the design consulting firm. You don't want the tenants going to each space. That's not what you want. Power is energizing those continuous duty rated solenoids that are keeping those trims locked. Well, that's all reported, wired into the system as a fire alarm input. If the fire alarm drops or opens the circuit to that material, power is going to be cut, meaning locks are going to be unlocked. They're latched, but the trims are now active. So in a stair tower application, yes, you do want people ultimately being able to go to different floors to evacuate. There was a fire many, many years ago. I think it was 69 West Washington in Chicago, where people perished in the stairwells because they could not re-enter the floors. Code was changed immediately after that. That is to be sure. And it wasn't the heat; it was the smoke that killed those people trapped in the stair tower. So that would be a perfect example why you want fail-safe. Fire alarm condition arises, power is cut, locks default to their standard state, fail-safe, trim is active, you can enter. Okay, not that you would put exit devices on stairwell doors, but it certainly isn't unheard of, depending on the occupancy, to see them. Occupancy is going to mean how many people are in the room, and if it's over a certain number based on NFPA code, yeah, you're going to see exit devices. So perfect example for that. The next page in the catalog shows us a touch bar monitor. The B option provides identification of the push pad being depressed, used as a request to exit switch to shunt alarm systems, release electromagnetic locks, or to monitor egress. The switch is rated for 4 amps at a maximum of 250 volts AC. and shows the devices that it works on, and toss the B option into it. Not available on a delayed egress or alarm kit. What they're saying there is delayed egress, the countdown of delayed egress of 15 or 30 seconds is initiated by the depressing of the touchpad. There might be 2 seconds where you have to hold it depressed or whatever it is, and then the 15-second countdown will begin. The alarm option kit is you hit the touchpad and the alarm starts to go off, the audible alarm. Well, for whatever reason, they're not able to put a touch bar monitor in there as well. That's probably because they have limited real estate on the inside of the device, and they can't find another place to stick another micro switch, is my guess. But the important part of this touch bar monitor £23 for sure, what this device weighs with all of its accoutrement. So, yellow, blue, brown. Yellow, blue, brown. Important to know these wires. You have to know them. This is your touch bar monitor. It is basically a micro switch. It's going to have a common, which is your blue wire. And then you're going to select from either your yellow or your brown. And what that means is your yellow is going to be normally closed, and if you wire to your brown, you'll be normally open. So what I'm driving at is this. You have a touch bar monitor. When you hit this, the state of that micro switch is going to go from whatever it was to this, and then back to this. So the switch is either normally open or normally closed. The way that the switch can act, the switch is capable of being set in its default state as normally open or normally closed. This is the common wire. This is going to go to your normally open, and then when you depress it, it'll go to normally closed. Or your common is going to be connected to your normally closed, and when the bar is depressed, it'll fall to normally open. Normally closed is the condition where power flows. Normally open is when that circuit is broken. So I think of it as a wall. Believe it or not, I think of it as a wall with a door. If you have the door closed, I've got continuity of the wall. If I open the door, I no longer have continuity. So when it's normally closed, I've got power that can flow through that circuit. So the point is this. Why is there a touch bar monitor? What are you doing with that information? When I hit the touch bar, what's happening? Well, I mean, it could be something simple like a light turns on. Okay, well, or a light turns off. Here's the example. That's a bad example in the sense of, think of someone at a central station monitoring stuff. They've got that door. They have a green light. Pick any color you want. A green light. Or no light. Let's just say that there's no light. No light. When there is no power running to that light, it's off. When you energize that light, it's on. Let's say it's a red light at a console. So I'm going to be normally open, no light. When I hit that touch bar monitor, this contact is going to go to normally closed. Allowing power to flow, my light is going to turn on until this happens. So you're going to get that red flash. You're going to get that temporary light condition. Is an example of why you would have normally open, normally closed. Single pole, double throw switch. I don't know why they don't have additional double pole, double throw kind of scenarios happening here, or multiple micro switches to do multiple things. There are obviously other ways to handle that, because the micro switch itself will handle so much power through it. You'd be able to do other things with that. Or it could be an annunciator. Horn goes on, when you hit the touch bar. Or, very commonly, you hit the exit device, which is going to be normally open. You hit the exit device, goes to normally closed. That will allow power to run. Pardon me. It's going to be normally closed. Power is running through it. When you hit the touch bar, it's now normally open. Power is cut to the mag lock. I want to hit the exit device, but when I do so, I need the mag lock to let go. So that would be a reason why you might have that sort of scenario. So and it's really easy to test it. You know, you can run power to the device. And basically be able to take a small little horn and just connect it and figure out what it's doing when you hit the touch bar. It's very easy once you power it up. Just switch the wires and you'll observe how the behavior changes. And if you do that enough, it'll start to stick, I suppose. Other options are listed there as well. Electrified system guide. So they have some pages there of showing fairly typical applications of door openings that you could very likely encounter, and they give a breakdown of what parts you're going to use in each configuration. And looking at those applications, it's just a study in, you know, the ways that electrified hardware can be implemented. Then we get to the 1109 cylinder that's listed there. We talked about that, an entire page of cylinder options. That should certainly be reviewed. We did a 6-pin cylinder option here. We would have indicated 7-pin if we wanted that. Then you get into the different strikes that are available for your devices. Different options, end caps, some replacement parts, dimensional properties of the item, and then a sample specification. And last but not least, the how to order guide. And that does look a bit intimidating, but it's not. That ordering information is crucial to follow, regardless of what part of the food chain you are in the construction portion of this eggs device, wherever you come in. Whether you're the architect or the specifier or the detailer or the distributor or the end user or the contractor or the fire marshal, you know, you need to know how to build that part number so as to properly convey what you want, what you need. That also, the ordering information, for me, I also use it as a checklist to say, okay, what am I forgetting? What do I actually need? Oh, yes, of course, I forgot to include the cylinder, things of that nature. So you don't want to forget items like that, even though it doesn't specifically list cylinder in these columns, but it would be understood under the trim. You know, when you pull up trim, you know you're going to need a cylinder. It either includes it or it doesn't. If it doesn't, then you need to pick that up. So that concludes the product catalog. After that, we get into additional documentation. Let's take a visual tour of this. Here's the business end of this device. This device that we have here is the, this ought to be the left-hand reverse device. Yeah, it is indeed. So left-hand reverse. So from your perspective, the door is going to swing out like that. The hinges are over here. I'm doing that very poorly. But this is when you're on the push side of the door, the hinges will be on the right and it will push away from you. And that is what we're dealing with here. You hit that touch bar, and you're going to see that chassis move, and that's what's going to get our latches moving. Communication from the tailpiece in the trim is going to be right here, and as you turn that either way, it's going to affect the same movement on this chassis. Okay. Our touch bar monitoring connection is down here. Okay. Of course, we're going to have our upper and lower rods. Typical material for this. Because this is an 8-foot device, there's an extension rod as well. Now we've taken a look at that exit device trim, and we've pretty much covered it all. Very nice, high-quality material. This band is going to be cut so you can get your rim cylinder installed according to the installation instructions. Seems very robust, seems very substantial in all of its pieces and parts. Okay, and I'm thrilled with the quality of all of this. All of the accessories that you're going to need to get everything installed, your bolts, your plates, I'm not going to pull all of this out of the packaging, your rod guides, of course your upper latch, okay? So what's happening here is when you hit the touch bar, that rod is going to be forced up. Let's do that over. The rod will be forced up, retracting the latch. When that door comes to close, this little guy is going to make contact with your strike. It's going to force everything to relock. This linkage is connected to the bottom bolt assembly. Which is here. This is going to thread into your vertical rod, and that is your bolt tip right here. And that, it's literally a bolt that will go into the floor. There's that threaded end where that bottom bolt is going to go into, okay? It's really just a rod guide is all it is down here. There's nothing active in here whatsoever. It's just a housing. It's quite captured inside of there. Okay. Stainless steel covers, of course, to cover everything up. Your head case, this is a wide style. They can do this in a narrow style as well. So if you're dealing with styles maybe as narrow as 2 3/4 inch or so, you'll be able to handle that sort of scenario. I don't know what the size of the narrow style is, so look it up in the product catalog if that is what you're looking for. Again, 4.5 inch is what's required.
Live from NPR News in Washington, I'm Louise.
They do include a plastic template. They have a whole mess of installation instructions here as well. This is the mechanical aspect of the installation instructions, which walk you through how all of the parts get put together. If it's your first exit device that you're putting on, completely read the installation instructions first, then start to go back and do a reality check on everything. Start to connect the pieces that you're pulling out of the box with exactly what it is that you have in the box, and you'll be able to start to understand how everything goes together. But it basically looks like this. What I like to do, once I have a firm understanding of where everything will lie out, is I will go back and I will go to the parts, that the page that will show all of the parts I'm supposed to have, and make sure that I have all the parts I'm supposed to have, and not start drilling holes until I know I've got everything. And in the case of this device, it's everything that's right here. They're going to show you how to cut the device based on your door width and your door height. They're going to show you how to change the handing of the device. I don't see any reason why you cannot field reverse this at all. I don't see a problem with that. You can't take fail safe and turn it into fail secure. I don't believe that's going to be something that you can do in the field. Yeah, everything else is simple and straightforward in that regard. We did say earlier that this was a fire-rated device, and as such, we would expect to find the sex bolts. If you're ordering doors, you might want to really have conversation about what's expected in terms of sex bolts, whether or not you're using them. They're not mandatory to use on a fire device, but your door would need to be properly reinforced for that material. If you're doing a steel door, I would order the door specified to be reinforced for this device, include a template with the order to the door manufacturer. They can provide the function holes and reinforcing. If you're doing a wood door, you're going to want to have lots of conversation about, what are we doing about the fasteners? Are we reinforcing the doors, or are we using sex bolts? The problem with wood doors, with any doors, and sex bolts is that you can see the heads of the bolts. If you've got 3 pair of anti-gray, 3080 fire-rated doors on a banquet hall, the owner might not want to see heads of little bolts all over the place. So, really think that through. The elegant part of the specification process is where the conversation is had, architect, owner, specifier. Let's talk about these things. The specifier can then put into the specification portion language that says sex bolts not, threaded to the head machine screws, threaded to the head sheet metal screws, or wood fasteners to be used with reinforced doors. Sex bolts not allowed. Something of that nature, so that you elegantly communicate what's intended. You've got your end cap, you've got your end cap bracket, and then your end cap that'll cover everything off. I like that design. It's a bit, it's tapered so that when the door is in the open position, you've got a little bit of a taper to that, so if something hits the end of the device, it glances off. Now let's talk specifically about the wiring of this device. We've got the 2 wires coming off for the 691 fail secured solenoid that's here. And we have a wiring harness that's going to be included with the package. You're going to have, and that has a 2-pin connector on it. You've got a 2-pin connector here. You can connect the 2-pin connector to the trim. This wiring harness will go through the door. You've got your red positive and your black negative. On the device itself, I'm going to pull the case off so we can take a closer look at it. There's your micro switch. Really cool. You have to press the bar. This little guy right here moves. And that movement moves that arm, which is connected to a plunger on the bottom side of the micro switch, which we can't see. And that's what affects the change of the state. Okay. Then you've got your 8-pin connector. You're going to run your wire harness through the door with your 1 and 2 leads. You're going to insert them into the 8-pin connector, and now you're good to go. That'll connect to your Electrolinks connection that's there. It's normal. The devices are meant to come apart. They are hand assembled. And that's what will give you a proper installation. All those details are indeed indicated in the installation instructions. You do have to bounce around a little bit to figure out, down here with your wiring harness reference, okay, your 8-pin connector on the back of the device only has your common normally open, normally closed for the switch, but you got to bring power to it, so that's where the wiring harness comes into play. Then on your B, in your electric exit device installation instructions, you've got your B monitor. Well, that shows us where your positioning is of your wires in your 8-pin connector. 6, 7, and 8 are occupied by your request to exit, or I should say your touch bar monitor. Then in 1 and 2 is where you're going to insert your wiring harness. So you do have to bounce around a little bit to figure out, okay, where are we putting what? At the end of the day, there's really only one correct way that it's going to work. And that's what makes life easy on devices like this, where there is literally just one way to work. And going through the installation instructions adequately will certainly deliver you to the point where you'll be able to understand what's indeed being done. Yes, and all of those installation instructions are buried down below. A really great, basically plug-and-play system. The mechanical attaching of the device to the door is not necessarily difficult at all, but you do need to follow the installation instructions in terms of the dimensional requirements, just to make sure that the device is physically attached to the door in the proper place and securely, and you're in good shape. If you have any questions on the Yale 7110F that we've been talking about, please feel free to reach out to us. Below this video is a link to the manufacturer's website where you can pull up not only all the Yale products that we sell, but a link to the manufacturer's website, the full line catalog, and other encyclopedic reference documents. And then finally, old archival catalogs from Yale. There are catalogs here that go back to the 19th century and is an amazing trip back in time to look at really interesting hardware as it comes from a historical perspective. Any questions on this or any other Yale product, please feel free to reach out to us. And thank you.